Welcome to the Metropolitan Council Transportation Committee meeting for April 22nd, 2024. Our first order of business tonight is approval of the agenda. If there are no changes or additions, we can proceed. Very good. Seeing none, we will move on to approval of the April 8th, 2024 meeting minutes. Did anyone have changes or additions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Vento. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Next thing, we're going to turn to General Manager Canderas for Metro Transit employee recognition.
All right, thank you, Chair Barber, council members. Today, we're recognizing 2 employees who have provided life-saving measures during one of our Great Day in Transit events. As these staff were out on the system reporting facility needs and assisting riders during this monthly engagement day, the employees here today were alerted to a medical emergency on board a train. Upon hearing this, the team contacted emergency services and worked to perform initial life-saving measures. So to introduce them and share a little bit more about what happened that day, I would ask the chair to recognize Amy Furman, Assistant Manager of Street Operations, to share a bit more.
Thank you. Welcome, Amy. If you want to come up so you can be by one of the mics so people can hear you, that'd be great. Thank you. Whatever's most comfortable.
Thank you, General Manager Canderas, council members. I'm here today to introduce Street Supervisors Dan Craig and Brian Hansen. On the morning of Monday, March 18th, 2024, Street Supervisors Dan Craig and Brian Hansen were working the Great Day in Transit shift on the Green Line at approximately 7:04 a.m. The train arrived at the station and Dan and Brian were alerted to an overdose on board. Brian Hansen worked to ensure assistance was on their way and directed them to the location of where Dan Craig was performing CPR on the passenger. Dan Craig did this with the assistance of Ramsey County fire medics who were providing instructions over the phone. Wow. When MTPD arrived, they took over CPR and Narcan was administered. When the passenger was transported to the hospital, it was noted that the passenger had a strong pulse, was awake and talking. We commend Dan and Brian for quickly jumping into action, which undoubtedly resulted in a positive outcome for this passenger.
Thank you for your quick thinking and your care in that situation. Really appreciate it. I'll meet you over here and I've got some awards for you. Yeah.
Yep, I know that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole Mitchell. She said
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Still my favorite part of the job. So nice to recognize people who do good things. So thank you. Now we're on to reports. Our first one is MTS Director Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, council members. 2 updates on the planning side of MTS. We continue development of the transportation policy plan. 8 additional chapters have been shared for individual review by council members and tab members. These 8 chapters contain descriptions of modal system investment, direction and planning, and detailed documentation of regional transportation finance. So we're seeking your individual review and comment by Monday, May 13th. So a few weeks to review the new set of chapters of the plan. And as that work continues, we're continuing to evaluate the regional solicitation and forming a work group that will guide this work. And the regional, so the first meeting of that group will be this week. The Regional Solicitation Evaluation Policymaker Working Group begins its work on Thursday. The role of the group is to guide the regional solicitation evaluation process and to be the decision makers on changes to incorporate, to be the decision makers to changes that get incorporated into the 2026 regional solicitation. The goal of the regional solicitation evaluation is to tie federally funded project selection closely to the vision, goals, and objectives of the 2050 Regional Development Guide and the 2050 Transportation Policy Plan. So 17 members of this group are TAB members and Met Council members, and we're appreciative of the leadership of Councilmember Barber, Councilmember Tony Carter, Councilmember Chabliss, and Councilmember Cameron to join their TAB policymaker colleagues in advancing this effort. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Well, I too just want to thank you for the people who are supporting the TPP work group, but also this new effort on the regional solicitation. And it really does matter a lot to our long-range planning. So appreciate everyone taking the time. If there's no other questions, we can go to Metro Transit General Manager Candaris.
All right, Chair Barber, council members, one update from Metro Transit. Last time we were here, you received an update on upcoming rail maintenance that we're going to be doing over the next several months. And this past weekend was our first rail maintenance closure on the Green Line where we repaired rail brakes. And that all went smoothly and successfully. During that time, we had buses replacing Green Line service, and all reports are that that went well. The work started Friday night and was completed last night ahead of schedule, so everything was back in time for the start of service today. Additionally, we were able to do some cleaning and trash pickup along the segment that was out of service. So I just want to thank and recognize our rail systems maintenance team, our bus and rail transportation groups, facility maintenance team, and all the staff ambassadors and police who are out helping customers direct them during the shutdown, and just are glad that that's done and that the speed restrictions on that segment of rail have been lifted. So with that, happy to take any questions about that or other topics.
Very good news. Glad to
Yes,
hear that.
yeah.
So any other questions or comments from council members? All right, thank you. And now we're going to go to our TAB report. We have Member DeGan here.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, honorable committee members, Mr. Director, Madam General Manager, Jenna, of course, and Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Funk is in the room too as well. We have a full house. Okay, since this is you have a limited agenda, I thought I would try, I look at my roles as two things. One is provide the information from the tab, but also hopefully cut down on some of the reading you have to do and information sources. And so what I would thought, the summary report would take about, a good 15, 20 minutes to digest from tab, the summary report from tab. So I'm going to just give a brief overview and that will be it. And hopefully you may have a shorter meeting today. Insignificant from the MPCA, the request or the discussion has been, EV charging stations along major corridors. Metro Transit is working on, Metro Transit, MnDOT is working on that. That would be the first priority. The Suburban Transit Association reports that microtransit service, Connect, MVST is doing very well and service is expanding. Commissioner Julie Jepson of Anoka County is on the Advisory Council for Traffic Safety, the Governor's Council, and she presented a report on different different results of traffic accidents, serious fatality within the metro. And it looks like this, and it was attached to the last agenda for tab, so you may not have it, but if anybody would want that, please let me know, and I will certainly get it to Chair Barber, whatever the chair directs. It's really, wow, it was quite fascinating. And they mentioned that they're going to try to go to a real-time model, and that would be really quite an accomplishment. On your consent agenda tonight, there were two items that were before tab. One is in the reconstruction of a change of a project sponsor to Dakota County from Emerald Grove Heights, and that's in Councilmember Dolkar's district. And then the other one is I-94 bridge repair, and that's generally in Councilmember Lilligren's district. The policymaker work group for the regional solicitation evaluation begins this week for April 25th. I believe Chair Barber and Mr. Carlson are on it. Thank you. We need your help. We need the brain trust. And that will continue for about 2 years? Probably?
Yep.
Okay. And then, and the Active Transportation Work Group, which is working on the active transportation funds, that special funding from the sales tax, has made some recommendations, and the recommendation is to include 15 million of it, which is on the low side for the 2024 solicitation. That means this year. So that has to be done quickly. And then with one project each in the areas it is meant for, which are trails, pedestrians, and safe routes to school. And for the 25 and 26 solicitations, that is still under advisement. The unique projects category presented certain projects for consideration, and there was a suggestion made of having a unique studies category so that we could consider not something, a project is usually underway, and the studies would be for one of the scenarios that was not able to be considered because it's still in the study phases is a magnetic train or a hyperloop from here to Rochester. And that would need a study, obviously, and it's the kind that China has, Japan has, and the like. And so there was thought of maybe we should, separate those two so that could be considered. Something, very far off, 10, 15, 20 years. And the other discussion was on unique projects was on innovation versus significance. And if you have any input, call Madam Chair. we couldn't, there was no decision made on that. And the regional solicitation survey results were given. I'm sure you've seen those. The tab asked staff for consideration of carbon reduction funds to add to the base 200 million. The active transportation funds consider geographic distribution and scenarios that weight one area of multimodal transportation over others. And the last is that Amy Venowitz, Deputy Director, presented just an absolutely fascinating and comprehensive review of the IIJA, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and how the spending there and through MnDOT Metro District and the regional transit affects the region. It was very comprehensive, and if you weren't an economics major, well, anyway, it was good. Thank you, Madam Chair. And any questions? And if you want this report, please and I'll get right on it for you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, ma'am.
Questions or comments? I also recommend going back, looking at the tab agenda for that finance presentation. It's very thorough and it's very helpful. I think it's almost a roadmap for anyone on this committee to kind of see where everything's going and how everything moves. So I advise that, and actually, Jenna, could you send that out? It'd be great.
Madam Chair, I forgot to mention something. Last Thursday, a group of concerned business people in Brooklyn Center, where the BCTC is, had one of their regular monthly, quarterly meetings with concern over crime, and General Manager Canderas attended, as well as Councilmember Cameron, that's her district, and Captain Richard Raymond from the Metro Transit Police. I can tell you, I was there as well, and the folks that organized it were very impressed that the general manager herself came, and Councilmember Cameron, and of course, Captain Raymond. And they thought, wow, people are listening to us. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you for that, actually. Appreciate that. All right, questions or comments again? All right, thank you, Peter.
course.
Now we are on to our business for the night. The first is our item that was on consent. I'd entertain a motion to approve the item on consent.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Carter. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Vento. Is there any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the consent item is adopted. Now we're on to our first non-consent business, which is business item 2024-2, which is disposition of property. In Champlin, we have Kelly Jameson and Sonia Bursa here. Welcome.
Is there a clicker or will
There
someone
is.
advance for us? Is it this one?
We'll get it.
You found it?
Is it this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chair Barber and committee members. Today, we're going to present on the disposition of property at 6020 117th Avenue North in Champlin. That's 2024-2 business item. My name is Sonia Burseth, and I'm a senior planner from Engineering and Facilities.
And I'm Kelly Jameson. I'm Director of Real Estate at the council.
Maybe someone else could help.
All right, we're coming with technical help here.
Oh,
There you go.
There you go. Thank you. I'd like to provide just some brief background on the Metro Transit Park and Ride system. So the goal of our park and ride system is to create a higher customer density for cost-effective transit in suburban and rural areas. Our highly utilized and most successful park and rides have a couple of things in common. Frequent transit service, so lots of trips, a fast trip to downtown, location upstream of congestion and downstream of a large residential population, and convenient freeway access. So there are about 20,000 spaces in the Metro Transit park and ride system, and they're spread over small lots, shared use lots, and large structured parking ramps. The map at the right shows our park and rides north and west of downtown Minneapolis, and the red star on the map shows the location of the property at 6020 117th Avenue. Commuting patterns changed in a big way during the height of the pandemic, and we're still seeing the effects of hybrid working policies through some of our smaller lots seeing continued low utilization. We collect that information through an annual system survey where we count parked cars over the course of a typical commuting week in the fall in collaboration with other providers. And we produce a report with data and trends. Those annual reports are published on the Met Council website. Yeah, thanks. So the parcel formerly functioned here as a small surface park and ride at West River Road and 117th Avenue in Champlin. The 151 space lot was closed to park and ride use in June of 2023. Prior to the closure, utilization of this park and ride had been declining since 2014, when nearby Highway 610 and Noble Park and Ride was expanded from a surface lot to a large structured ramp. In 2013, our survey counted 128 cars using the lot. In 2019, we counted 43 cars, and in 2022, we counted 17 cars. We know that many customers, transit customers in the area, are choosing to use Noble Park and Ride instead of other smaller lots that might be closer to their homes. So this park and ride used to have 3 a.m. peak trips serving the park and ride and then heading into downtown, whereas Noble has 6 a.m. peak trips, so roughly double the transit service. There are other park and rides in the area that have available capacity. For instance, in 2022, we counted about 100 cars at Noble Park and Ride, so that results in about 900 available parking spaces there. Other park and ride customers can choose Richardson Park, also in Champlin, Maple Grove Transit Station in Maple Grove, Church of the Nazarene, and Highway 52 and 66th Avenue in Brooklyn Center. Per an agreement, the City of Champlin had been performing routine maintenance, which included snow plowing, mowing grass, paying for lighting, and they also supported the closure. Through discussions with teams within Metro Transit and MTS, we have determined that there's no future transit need for this property. Other park and rides in the area meet that long-term market demand. Our financial obligations have been met, no federal funds were used, and improvements constructed on the property are fully depreciated. We also checked in with our TOD colleagues and determined that this is not a transit-oriented development opportunity.
And what I'm going to do is just talk to you a little bit about the existing joint powers agreement that we have on this site with the City of Champlin, and then also our disposition strategy. So dating back to 1989, there's a joint powers agreement for the construction and maintenance of this site between the City of Champlin and MTC, which now is Metropolitan Council. As Sonia mentioned, the City of Champlin was doing the routine maintenance. They also acquired this site on behalf of Transit. The Metropolitan Council is the fee owner of this site, so we worked with the City of Champlin to acquire. We used Metropolitan Council money or MTC money, and we did the non-routine maintenance on this site. Both parties to this joint powers agreement must agree to terminate. And it also, in the joint powers agreement, it says that the city must approve any use that's non-transit use. This becomes important because as we look at what we would normally do when we dispose of property, we would first declare that the property is surplus excess. There's no other need on the site. And going through that process, we actually reached out to our environmental services group who has a project in the area and said, hey, we could use this for laydown. However, City of Champlin would have to agree to a non-transit use at this site. And they said, no, that's not the best use. And really kind of saw this as residential housing redevelopment. So with this, we, within the powers of the joint powers agreement, agree that this is surplus because it's no longer needed for transit, and are looking to sell the property to the City of Champlin. Kind of going back to what we would normally do with disposition, through statute and policy, we would sell in an open market to the highest bidder, sell for fair market value kind of through a brokerage process, or we could give to another governmental entity for public use. Since this doesn't exactly fall within any of those, what we're proposing to do is sell for fair market value to the City of Champlin, and are seeking council approval for that. So we would be authorizing the regional administrator to negotiate a sale to the City of Champlin at market value. The council would serve their priorities by kind of selling off to a long-term public partner on this site dating back to 1989. The City of Champlin is interested in the property, and really they maintain control through zoning of what the eventual end use will be. And it's going to be more quickly to sell to the city than to try to, come up with a bid for a developer and then have it go through a process where the city has to approve their site plan. So the proposed action is that Met Council declare the property surplus for disposition, authorize the regional administrator to negotiate a fair market sale to the City of Champlin, and then terminate the joint powers agreement with the City of Champlin for the park and ride lot. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Very good, thank you. Any questions or comments from council members? Councilmember Vento and then Chambliss.
Couple of strange questions. In my old district, I had a park and ride where a portion of it was sold to a business, and it had to go through the FTA. Is that because that park and ride's proximity was to an interstate highway? Does anybody know?
Don't know.
Good question.
Oh, okay. I remember at the time thinking, oh boy, the FTA, that's going to take forever, and it kind of did. And I'm assuming it was because of it was right at 35E, I
Well,
think it was.
and I think the one thing, and do you want to speak to this too, that there's no FTA dollars in the purchase.
Right, exactly. Okay, my other question is, typically, how long does this process take?
That is a great question. And this has actually been in negotiation with the City of Champlin for well over a year. Okay. So I started back in August, and this has already been going on. But we are to the point where once the council approves this, we are ready to bring forward a purchase agreement. Both sides have gotten appraisals and will negotiate, I think, fairly quickly.
And my last question is, are there similar conversations going on with other park and rides?
Yeah, that's a great question. Chair and committee members, we expect that there will be some continued park and ride consolidation in the future, but new park and rides will also be opening for Gold Line and Green Line extension. So there's about 10 that come through those metro projects. But we are coordinating with the Network Now project to align those plans with future service plans.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
And Councilmember Chambliss.
Thank you. Very good question, Sue. And I was glad that during the presentation, you did mention kind of what the city's goals were for land use, potentially residential housing, which we know that there's a need for residential housing and in particular new housing or first-time home buyer. I'm not sure what their proposed partner might be interested in terms of the type of housing, but I'd be curious about that. And also, I'm wondering, if there's a really strong, compelling reason to not have that land be up in the open market. I think there could potentially be some advantages to having an open market sale. It may take longer, it may be a little bit more complicated, and I certainly understand the city of Champlin's interest in wanting to control that, but it doesn't sound like they want to put it in the open market either. So I just feel like we may be closing some opportunities if we don't put it in the open market.
Yeah, Chair Barber, council member, that's a great question, and we have went through many rounds of conversation on this. At the end of the day, we're recommending this strategy because of this joint powers agreement. So both parties must agree to terminate. Our kind of stick says that it has to be used for transit purposes, and so to sell it in the open marketplace, we would have to get the city of Champlin to agree to terminate the joint powers agreement. And they've made it very clear that they're not interested in making any money off of this. They're happy to pay market value and eventually turn it around to a development. If the Met Council were to try to partner with them on that, it steps a little bit away from our goals of providing transportation and other things too on this site. And so we just felt they're in the best position to be able to determine the end user. They have the control through zoning, they have the control through site plan approval, and they also have a joint powers agreement that they have to agree to terminate.
Councilmember Vantel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really like that response. It was a good question, Councilmember, but I do really like that response. And I think when we've got a good working relationship with our cities and we've got those joint power agreements, sticking with them and being cooperative, I think, is really important.
All right. Any additional questions or comments? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-2.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And motion carries. Thank you. Now we're on to our final business item for the evening, business item 2024-85, which is a joint powers agreement with the City of Brooklyn Park. And we have Captain Joseph Dotson here to present.
Chair Barber, council members, good afternoon. My name is Joe Dotseth. I am a captain of the Transit Police that oversees our Support Services Division. And I'm here today to present business item 2024-85. It's a joint powers agreement with the City of Brooklyn Park, the Brooklyn Park Police Department, contract number 24I014. Our proposed action that we're proposing is that the council authorize the regional administrator execute a joint powers agreement with the City of Brooklyn Park, the Brooklyn Park Police Department. Some background on this business item here. We've entered into past mutual aid agreements with the City of Brooklyn Park under the Hennepin County Mutual Aid Agreement, contract number 15M004. And under that business item, the council authorized action on that. It was a 2015 business item, 2015-161. The council contract 15M004 is more of a general cooperation agreement that was really designed for major incidents, right? So what these JPAs are doing and what we're refreshing at the police department is reaching out to all of our partners with the new standard agreement that really identifies what our statutory authority is under 473-407 is, and just really defining our roles very specifically. So there is an attachment that we have along with this business item that's kind of our standard template that we're reaching back out to our partners on. So that's what we're asking the council to authorize the RA to do, is to push this forward. The rationale behind this, state statute 471-59 requires council action to approve these joint powers agreements, and of course council procurement policy 14-1. We've done a Thrive lens analysis on this business item. We've worked with procurement and our partners at OGC on this contract and this business item. There's no known costs associated with this agreement. Kind of our standard joint powers agreements that we're running through, there's no money attached to them. They're really just a legal agreement that's defining our roles. And we've checked with OEO on this, and there's no small business impact on this due to the nature that it's a JPA with the city. So with that, I'll take questions.
Thank you very much, Captain. Councilmember Vento.
I have one question. Thank you, Madam Chair. We've had a number of these come through, and one thing that, for the first time, it occurred to me, I don't think there's ever any reference to county sheriff's offices. Are they ever a party to these types of agreements?
Chair Barber, Councilmember Vento, it does get a little trickier with the county because they have such a large area, and then we
Right.
do kind of rely on the cities for that jurisdiction. What we're doing right now is we're going back and refreshing all of these joint powers agreements. So it is our plan to reach out to both sheriff's offices, in the whole region, right, in all the cities, to kind of go through this list. There has been quite a few of these coming through, and there's probably going to be some more. So we're just kind of working with our friends at procurement and OGC to kind of see what the best avenue is. So maybe not, 85 of them come through, but potentially there are. But yeah, we'll certainly be reaching out to the counties to review that.
I do have one more question. What's well, I hate this word, but what's the trigger for this? Bad word to use, but what's the impetus for this to happen? Is it the result of serious crimes and the realization that we need more partnerships, or is it kind of looking ahead and preparing for future needs? Is it a reaction or a proaction?
Chair Barber, Councilmember Vento, really, it's over the last couple of years, the police department, especially since I've been in this role in the support services division, we're trying to really refresh all of our contracts and all of our administrative stuff. So while that, I can certainly see that avenue of it, really, we're going through all of our contracts. We've actually hired, a whole team does all of our contracts now. So it's just really refreshing all of these agreements and going through. And this JPA, it's a standard template that we're going out to our partners with. That is definitely different too. So we just want everything to be on the same playing field and just really refresh our agreements. So these JPAs are one thing, but all of the contracts at the police department and really how we handle our finances and administration, we've been refreshing the last couple of years. Great question though.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Councilmember Carter.
Just a bit redundant perhaps, but I didn't hear that anything significant had changed within the context of the documents. Is that true?
Chair Barber, Councilmember Carter, the old agreement in 2015 really talked about emergency response. This one here, as you kind of go through it, it talks about, who's going to handle arrests and investigations. Our ability to exercise general law enforcement duties in these jurisdictions really is important to identify in here. So it talks about that. We also worked with our partners at the Communications Center to talk about communication during 911 calls. There's an investigation clause in there. So it just really is kind of getting into the weeds, for lack of a better term, on these agreements. So we're all on the same playing field.
So clarifying perhaps some things that were previously assumed and by practice done, but not documented in essence.
Chair Barber, Councilmember Carter, yeah, that would be correct. And it's a little lengthy agreement, but it definitely clarifies stuff. And, I've been with Metro Transit Police now for this is my 20th year. I've been 23 years in law enforcement. And I can definitely tell these agreements, when they're detailed, it benefits all of us. I think it also protects the council too from risk, because we all know what our rules of engagement are.
Thank you.
Right, additional questions or comments? I'll just agree. I think it's great that we're getting all of these aligned and refreshing them, because I think a lot of time, and whether it's public or private sector, you have agreements and they sit but things change, so it's really good practice. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-85.
Motion to approve?
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Vento. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Thank you. And that concludes our business for the evening. Something I never thought I'd say at 4:35 in a Transportation Committee meeting, which has never happened before. So we'll just take it when we have it. If there's no objection, I would say both those items can go on consent. So All right, very good. And with
Madam
that.
Chair.
Yes,
So are you saying we just made history?
I think we might have. Unless my farmer colleague Harry Melander chaired a meeting, because he would have had the record, so guaranteed. All right, we are adjourned.
The staff